Hi everyone, I'm Scott. This is my channel CineRam. And if you're a fan of Jim Gizriel, as I am, you probably saw his live stream a few days ago. Jim covers basically current movie and animation topics on a weekly live stream, and he brought up the fact that it was recently announced that Neil Blomkamp, I believe that's how his name is pronounced, Neil Blomkamp from South Africa, who is the director of District 9 and Elysium and Chappie, is interested in making a new adaptation of Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers, of course, is a novel by Robert Heinlein, and it was adapted by Paul Verhoeven and his favorite writers into a film that came out in 1997. So Neil wants to make a new adaptation of the same novel, but it was stated that he wants to make it more faithful to the spirit of the book. And some of us think this is a bad idea. Jim was pointing out, and I have read, that the novel itself is very pro-military. One might even describe it as fascist. And so Verhoeven, having strong anti-fascist sensibilities, decided to ridicule this sensibility by making all the central characters pretty bland and generically attractive, and basically satirizing the whole idea of a militarized society. Jim was talking about how when the film came out, it wasn't nearly as successful as they had hoped. At a $100 million budget, only made a little over $50 million domestically. So it wasn't considered a really big success. Certainly not on the level of Titanic, which came out about a month later, or any of the big summer blockbusters such as Air Force One or the second Jurassic Park movie, stuff like that. He also talked about the fact that a lot of critics didn't seem to really get it, including Roger Ebert, who gave it kind of a low rating. Jim expressed the opinion that nobody really seemed to get it at the time, but people since then have sort of latched on to what the idea behind the film was, Verhoeven's film. Well, I would like to state publicly that at that time the movie was released, I got it. Yes, absolutely. I was a big fan of this movie, still am. I really enjoyed the comical version of news reports. Also, something that was utilized in the original RoboCop. I'm very, very fond of this movie. Was right from the start. In fact, in 1997, when I put together a little top 10 list of my favorite films that year, even though I wasn't on YouTube and wasn't publishing a blog or anything like that, I still put those lists together, and Starship Troopers I ranked #1. Yeah, my favorite movie, the best movie that I saw that year. Better than Jackie Brown, better than LA Confidential, better than Donnie Brasco. My favorite movie of that year was Starship Troopers. And that's largely down to the comical and satirical way that Verhoeven treated the society. And since then, I've sort of developed kind of a theory about this. Not one that I'm sure a lot of people share. But in reading about Top Gun, which came out about 11 years earlier, there was a significant uptick in Navy recruitment, people signing up to join the Navy, young men signing up to join the Navy following the blockbuster release of that movie. It was the #1 box office hit of the year. I think Top Gun, because it got cooperation from the military and using their jets and using the aircraft carrier and what have you, wanted to make the Navy, and being a Navy fighter pilot, look as cool as possible, which was very successful. And I sort of felt like Verhoeven's, I'm not sure if this was intentional, I know he wanted to make it look a little bit ridiculous, but I also feel like the movie kind of plays, in many ways, like Top Gun from the 24th century. Like a piece of propaganda that the militarized society would commission and produce in order to make their mobile infantry and the other aspects of the militarized society look as attractive and glamorous as possible. Join the military, join the mobile infantry, fly in spaceships all over the galaxy, destroy evil aliens, fall in love with attractive people who are also in the service, and become good buddies with other people. You know, it's a great deal, a great deal. Other than the fact that a lot of people get violently killed and torn apart. It's a great time for everybody. Join up, join the mobile infantry. That's what I felt like the movie kind of plays at in a lot of ways. I'm sure that there's a lot of holes you could poke in that, but I've always sort of felt like that was like, again, their recruitment poster, if that society actually did exist in some future century. I wanted to tell a little story about actually the first time I went to see this movie. It was opening weekend in 1997, and we people in the audience started to get irritated by Denise Richards because she almost always had a big toothy bright smile on her face no matter what was happening. And at a certain point, when the ship that she's flying has a little collision and, you know, they take damage, you know, and one of the guys says, "We were lucky," and the captain of the ship says, "We weren't just lucky, we have a hell of a flight team." And Denise Richards, who's piloting the ship, turns around, and everyone in the theater goes, "Oh no, not again!" And she smiles again, everybody goes, "Oh, not again." Enough with the smiling. Eventually she cools it later on. She doesn't smile nearly so much during like the last third of the movie. Yeah, fun movie, funny, very wicked, and one of my favorite, as far as just directorial efforts, one of my favorites of all time. So I wanted to give it a little shout out and say maybe not a lot of people got Starship Troopers at the time, but I've been on board right from the beginning. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.